Go ahead.
Could you announce yourself?
Could you use the microphone?
Oh, who's going?
All right, I was asked to read this prayer that was given to us by the Unitarians. Let there be peace, an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us. So many of us, a community of memory, of hope, of we are now the keepers of the dream. Okay? So, and then I think I was the first one up to speak. Okay.
Could I
Yes.
just make a statement prior?
Yes.
First,
Yeah, use the mic.
It should be a mic going around. Yeah.
Are there two mics?
Are there two mics?
Yeah,
So
bring that one.
I think a lot of us want to thank everybody, board members, past board members, past council members and community and members and participants for being here. I know people have a lot of concerns, as Tony said, and we're hoping that we can approach this in a manner of peace and justice and reconciliation and restorative justice, and that we don't approach it as, I know there's a lot of high emotions for some people, and if we can approach it without making an attack on any personalities, but there seems to be a problems, and the idea is this community meeting to lay out what those problems are and help everybody find out some answers, and if there's no answers, then to figure out the problems and how to solve those problems. And so I hope we're all respectful to each other, and we're here because everybody here cares about the Center for Peace and Justice.
Can you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Larry Cronin. I've been involved in the Center for Peace and Justice for the, first got involved probably about 25 years ago, haven't been involved in the last several years, and I've been listed as an attorney for some grants with the Center for Peace and Justice, and I appreciate everybody.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself, please.
Oh, Larry Cronin. My name is Larry Cronin, sorry.
Thank you, Larry.
These microphones don't work unless you put them really close to your mouth.
Ms. Covington, you want to go ahead and start off?
Wait, hold on. I just want to ask one thing. Before you speak, can you give your name so I can enter you into the minutes? Thank you.
I'm sorry, your name is?
Oh, I'm just on the board. I'm Rowan. I'm the secretary.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And if anybody doesn't have any objections, I can walk around when people want to speak and with the mic.
Larry, can you clarify that we're taking notes, we're not taking minutes?
We're taking notes, and
This is a community meeting?
right, although it's listed on the Secretary of State's website as an annual meeting. I'm not sure how that happened, but
This particular meeting,
this particular meeting.
we did not post that, so I don't know what came from it. Because according to the bylaws, there has to be
Speak
30
into the
days
mic.
notice, so this is a community meeting, we will actually call it.
This is a community
can't hear
meeting.
her.
This is a community meeting, not an annual meeting, because it was not posted correctly as an annual meeting. This is a community meeting for people to come and voice their concerns and hopefully get some answers.
And I hope the board will correct that on the Secretary of State's office.
Yeah, we did, I did not put that up there, so.
Okay. And we are not responsible for what the Secretary of State does or does not do.
So who
Okay.
will correct it then?
I'll correct it.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how it got posted, but I'll correct it. Yeah, I didn't know.
All right, thank you. So, we're gonna get started. I'm first on the list to speak. My name is Tanya Covington. For those of you few that I don't know, up until February, I was the president of the board of directors. I've been involved with the Peace Center on and off for over 30 years. I was actually on the board of directors 25 years ago, and came back to be on the board again just a couple of years ago. So what I would like to do to get this started is I would like to ask for a show of hands. How many people here have their dues paid? Your dues paid. So less than 10? And
Tanya?
Yes.
Tanya, there's
I wanted to pay my dues today, but apparently there's a discrepancy. Larry Cronin paid his dues a couple of days ago, and it cost him $25.
Well, that's what I did, and I got a receipt.
Right, but, and when someone asked today to pay their dues, they were told it was 40, and it isn't clarified on the website.
Okay.
And there's no way to pay the membership dues, quote, membership on the website.
Actually, if you go through the PayPal, you can, you just mark it as.
It just said donation, nothing said membership.
Yeah, we'll clarify that. There's a place in there to put it.
All right. So let's,
And
that's something that we're working on, and again, one of the things that people need to know is we're trying to hold this place together with a skeleton crew. And there are lots of people who are upset that everything is not perfect. But I don't see lots of people in here every day helping or bringing in checks. And that's what's needed. What everyone needs to know is this organization is here for everybody. And right now, currently, correct me if I'm wrong, Susie, it takes $1,700 a month to keep the Peace Center going. Not one time $1,700, $1,700 every single month of the year. And if people aren't helping to make that happen, then I think they should think very carefully about how much they're complaining. And some of the complaints have been so incredibly petty. Things like being upset because they're not allowed to break a city ordinance by having a dog in the kitchen. That's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And if you want this place to be closed down, so let's have us start not paying attention to rules. Okay?
Tonya, I want to
If
thank you
someone-
for starting
wait.
this out with such a reconciliation attitude.
Let me just ask also, does anyone have any ideas on how we can make the amount of money that's needed to keep the Peace Center going? Yes.
Can I?
Wait, no. Go ahead, you have an idea of how we can keep up?
We have a question over here before that.
Yes, my name's Rosemary Blanchard, and when you asked who's a member, I didn't know if to raise my hand or not because I think I am. And I have been a member, and I have made donations, but because I have been somewhat COVID isolated for the past couple of years, I don't know whether what I did online had me continuing as a member or not, and I haven't heard back. So I think there may well be some of us who hope we are members and would certainly pay a dues if we found that whatever we've done by way of payment was considered donation, not dues, but we need to know.
Thank you, and I think that's something that we certainly are going to try to make sure that we can get that in. The bottom line is that it takes money to keep this place going. And we need to make sure that we can keep the doors open and that we can keep our bill collectors from taking this building for not being able to pay our bills. Anybody who is interested and wants to help with that, I ask that you please just give us some positive suggestions on how that can be done. And if you don't have any suggestions, then where does that leave us? We all love this center. We would all like to keep it open. It takes money to do that.
Hi, my name is Janet Greenwald, and I served as a coordinating on the coordinating committee of the Peace Center for a decade during Dory's time. And during that time, we didn't have any employees. It was all volunteer. And was that easy? No, it wasn't. Did it work? Yes, it did. I have done fundraising, and I would like to pledge some help to the Peace Center to do some fundraising. However, before I do that, I need to see what has happened to bring us to this point where we are so in debt. And I think there are other people here who feel the same, who would like to step in and do something to save the Peace Center, but they first need some explanations. My husband and I have been running 501c3s for half a century, and we have never known a 501c3 to be in this much trouble. So we need some explanations. Thank you.
And clarification of what's owed and what trouble it
Right,
is.
and
And I can make a very quick statement about that.
Before you do, we have a question from Zoom that.
Okay, the question is, you've had 40 hours a week of free office help along the way. What have they been doing? And we have never heard about what the board is doing or will do.
And do we know who that's from?
That is from Michelle Meters.
Can I just very quickly, the one thing that everybody, thank you, that everybody needs to know, the difference of what's going on now versus the past was COVID. The majority of the money that was being made by the Peace Center was made renting out the Peace Center. When COVID came, that had to come to a stop. Now, it did come to a stop. Unfortunately, people didn't automatically up their dues or make extra donations to make exceptions for that. So all of a sudden, the main way that we were making money was taken away from us, okay? So everybody needs to understand that. It is not because somebody did something wrong. It is not because things were mismanaged. It was because the governor made us close the building. Okay? And as for 40 hours of free labor, I don't know where that came from.
Hi, I'm Hildegard Adams. I was on the board here for 20 years. And as was just pointed out by Janet, we were on the board at the same time, and Robin as well. We made it work, despite the fact that the Peace Center has never been rich and we never got into trouble. We are here, not just the three of us, but everybody else is here because we have numerous questions about finances and some very, very specific questions. We need to have a much clearer idea of the debits and credits and what has happened to some of the money. We hear all kinds of things, and it's not just hearsay. People are researching. They're researching public documents to see what's happened with the Peace Center. We need to know questions, answers to questions such as, is the Peace Center in arrears $12,000 on the employee taxes? Are there outstanding debts in some other ways? Why are there outstanding debts? And my personal question is, what happened to our reserve account? Because at one time we had an account that could pay an entire year's bills. And that was an account that we never touched. So, and the board needs to know, and everybody else needs to know. First of all, I'm a lifetime member. At one time, the Peace Center was issuing lifetime memberships. But people are not donating now, and they're not going to donate now because many of our old members are not in a state of trust with what's going on at the Peace Center. They don't know if they should give the Peace Center any more money because they don't know what's going to happen with the money. So it's incumbent on the Peace Center to regain the community trust, and that's why we're all here.
So there were some very specific questions that were just asked, and wondering if the board can address those.
The one thing that they brought up also was desk volunteers. That was from the same person that asked the question previously. Michelle Meters. My name is Marissa Vijo. I'm just a volunteer helping with the Zoom.
Okay, Larry, what were?
The question still there was, what debt does the Peace Center have right now? And the other question, main question that I heard, and I can be corrected, is the Peace Center deficient right now in back taxes?
Okay, I'm gonna step back just.
And what happened to the reserve
Right,
account?
well, I'm gonna address that real quick. I have actually gone back and looked.
Hold the mic close to your mouth.
Sorry.
And who are you, please?
My name's Susie Sanchez Begg, and I do programs and finance. So I, through the course of all of this, have pretty much touched every folder and binder in this building to find prior minutes, all of those things, documents from prior years. And I can tell you from looking at the year-end finance reports, this place, with the exception of 1 or 2 years, has had a negative balance almost every year, so.
Since when?
I should have made notes, but all of the finance binders are over there, and the board minutes are over there from prior years. So I encourage people to look. Hildegard, as to the CD, the reserve, those transactions or when that money was moved is in there. And I also found from the board minutes, one of Sue's staff reports, and in it says, looking through my notes from the last meeting, this was in March, so it would have been in February. Let's see, the CC still needs to decide how to reinvest the certificates of deposit that were moved into the savings account. So the CD was cashed in, appears in February of 2019, just so you know.
The reserve fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I'm happy to have you all look through that. It does also say in this, the finance committee was held this past week, is that we're looking to spend $10,000 more than what we have, and are tracked to spend another 24 more than projected. I don't know how it was done. I don't know how people before me did it. I only know how I did it, or how I do it. Sorry.
I'm sorry, what year was that especially?
This is 2019.
2019,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
month?
Let's see, here's one from February, and I'll put them back in the book, but I just kind of pulled them out as reference for this meeting. It says, concerns addressing issues of racism, blah, blah, blah. At this time, the financial health of I'm concerned about the finance health of P&J. Pleased that Greg is on the finance committee, but that they're looking to overspend by about $24,000 more than what they have.
Okay, and then when you mention, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you mention the books are there or the documents are there, where do you mean there? And
I pulled the binders out. So
on the table, maybe.
Yeah, I pulled those out.
Okay.
And then according to this other note, which was in March, the prior month, the CD, which is I'm assuming what you're talking about, the reserve, was actually moved into the general money.
And so I think the question is, where did it go?
So all of the finance reports are in there, are in the books that are up there. And so I encourage you to peruse through them. You can.
That happened before she was there, before the rest of us.
Yeah, and I pulled stuff together, I've pulled stuff together. Paul will attest to that. All I can do is try to gather the documents that you're asking for. If I can find them, that I've put them together. If I can't, there's nothing that, I can't do what I wasn't here to do. I can only do things how I do them.
And so Susie, just to be clear, the question about what debt the center has now and what back taxes are owed?
So the information that went out in your email is correct. And we actually have a payment plan with the IRS to pay those back.
How much?
It's right about 12. I couldn't tell you down to the penny what it is. And
What was that 12?
back taxes.
I'm
I'm sorry.
This woman wants to speak.
Yeah.
Yes, but no, but the other people also need to hear the answers because we are here to hear answers. What was your question?
This woman has been wanting to speak over here.
Oh, no.
I was just trying to get a clarification as to what you were referring to about paid and unpaid.
We're on a payment plan with the IRS for the back taxes.
Payroll taxes.
Yeah, the payroll taxes. Somebody had brought up property taxes. We don't pay property taxes on this
So you're
building.
saying the payroll taxes are paid up to date?
No, they're on a payment plan to pay the back payroll taxes
Okay.
of how much?
12,000.
Yeah, right about 12.
12,000.
Yeah.
And that was it?
Yes, ma'am.
You told us that they I'm sorry?
Identify.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. I'm Lisa Silva, and I'm here as one of there's several of us from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. And Tanya didn't mention, she asked who was paid up, but she didn't ask about, we paid rent.
Yes.
And we have continually paid rent through the pandemic as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't think
Remember the amounts correctly. This is not under my watch, so I want to say it was, I looked at those, like right around 30,000.
is that what you guys remember from the previous board? It was-
Okay, there was cash. Can you pull me that, do you mind pulling me the binder from 2018 and 2019? And I can tell you, I can look at it and tell you.
I can tell you the answer.
Oh, you have the
The
book.
financial report from July 21st.
Now you have to put it right to your mouth.
The financial report from July 31st, 2019.
Identify yourself.
Identify
I'm Jean
yourself.
Pauls.
Thank you.
I'm with Stop the War Machine, and I've been a member of the Peace Center for quite a while, and actually came to Albuquerque through the Peace Center because I worked with Janet on a committee before I lived here. I was in Zuni, and then I ended up coming here as a result of some of that, so. Okay, so there was a new Senda number 10 CD on July 31st of 2018 that had $7,536.04. And it was taken out. So on July 31st of 2019, there was zero. There was $0 in there. There was a new Senda number 12 CD on July 31st, 2018 that had $35,216.56, and that was taken out. And on July 31st, 2019, there were $0 in there. And then there was a Nusenda number 3, maintenance reserve, that actually went up in money. On July 31st, 2018, it had $750 in it. And on July 31st, 2019, it had $2,252.61.
The savings account must be where that money went, or a good chunk of it, it seems, because in 2018, it had $7,680.02, but on July 31st, 2019, it had about $43,000 in it. So that might answer some of those questions.
And it looks like we have a question from Zoom.
And this is from Gillum Curley. Can someone address the report that the center is seeking a $250,000 mortgage, which would likely add to the budget a monthly payment greater than the $1,700 necessary for basic operation of the center, and which the center seems to have difficulty covering? Is that true? And what would the $250,000 be used for? And then Renee Walters also just stated that John was treasurer before 2019 and has information about the CDs.
So can the board, somebody from the board address what the talked about mortgage is for?
Well, no. My understanding is back in February, the board approved some kind of grant for the mortgage. I wasn't on the board then, I wasn't even here then. But the grant had, but I'm gonna let Tanya explain that since she was more familiar with this than I am. But I know they approved it in February.
Who is that? Who is that person?
Right, who is that person?
Who is that person?
He identified himself before.
Tony Johnson.
Tony Johnson, he's the president of the board right now.
Tony.
Thank you for that information. Could we take a look at the minutes of that month where it would be recorded, please?
The minutes are there, and I can tell you, it wasn't 2022, it was,
Well, he said February this year, right? Yeah.
was it? Okay.
He said February this year.
All right, let me tell you what I remember. Jim was still executive director of the board. I was the president of the board. We realized that the Peace Center was losing money, that we didn't have enough money to keep things going, and it was looking like down the line things would get worse. Primarily because we did not know whether or not we were, what was going to happen with COVID.
Could you just put a date to what you just said?
This was January and February of this year. This year, okay? So we started thinking of ways that we could make money. Jim had sent out a letter asking members to up their contributions, but just enough to keep us going for a little while. The reason that this was thought of was because also at the time, the Mortgage Finance Authority had put something out saying that for nonprofits who were having problems paying their mortgage after COVID, that they could get free money that would actually pay the mortgage. So what that would mean is that we would take out a mortgage, use that money to keep the center going, and then get money from the Mortgage Finance Corporation to pay that back. So we really would be making money as opposed to taking money out.
In addition to that, I'll tag team onto that, is that while all of that discussion, while all of that discussion was going on, we were grant writing. And all of the grants are set up, or 98% of the grants are set up that they're reimbursable. So you pay your employees, you pay whatever it is that you're paying that fall under the grant, and then you send in an invoice for reimbursement. And in order to do that, you have to have cash in the bank.
We're looking at the minutes from January and February and even March, And there's nothing in the minutes about a vote on this mortgage application for $250,000. I would also like to say, as long as we're on that, we used to be a consensus group, especially on the board, but also for the membership. And now apparently it's a majority vote, and so the ones who don't agree get disenfranchised, those members that are on the board. However, we just looked at the minutes, there's nothing in there about that application.
Actually, we did discuss it in Darby. Oh, sorry.
To your mouth, close.
I am not used to using it, I apologize.
Mic like this, please.
She is.
Dar, do you remember the meeting where Josh pulled that information and we talked about it? I don't remember which meeting it was. I will have to go back, but it is in the minutes. I don't know if it's been taken out of the book.
Anybody would like to?
And I will say, I don't remember the amount of $250,000.
Right.
I don't remember it being that much.
Right, and if I remember, it was that Jim and I, the board voted to give Jim and I permission to move forward on getting all of the information and doing that on behalf of the board. And the $250,000 amount came back at that number because doing the research, that was the dollar amount where the interest rate shifted significantly. Anything under that, the rates were very high and prohibitive. Anything over 250, the rates had dropped, and that was where that number came from.
Dar, did you want to respond?
So my name is Dar Diaz. I've been a board member since November of last year, so relatively short amount of time. Regular board member meaning I'm not a treasurer, I'm not a secretary, just regular, so I have no deep information on the financials. However, I do remember that vote, and what I remember most about it was I was the lone voice against this idea of mortgaging the building. And at the time, I was doing what we call Peace Cafe, which is something that's ongoing now. I'm no longer leading that, and my partner at the time, who was co-leading that with me, Josh, we were both very concerned about this, and we did just this thing of looking into the minutes, and we found nothing ourselves related to the discussion of even the idea of mortgaging the building or any kind of recorded discussion in the minutes. And I was present at that vote. Again, I was the lone voice, but it was only a short time before that I even learned about the idea of mortgaging the building, mortgaging this building. There were, I believe, two board meetings that I did miss. One early on this year, my brother had passed away. I missed one meeting, and then I subsequently had COVID, so I missed two meetings, and I'm not sure if perhaps some kind of discussion took place there in those meetings and wasn't recorded in the minutes. But that's what I know.
And I'm trying to stack the people who have their hands up, so.
You're the third one.
I have Bob, Gene, and
Okay, hi, I'm Bob Anderson. I'm with Stop the War Machine, and I've been a member of the Peace and Justice Center formally and informally, gosh, for about 30 or 40 years, I guess you could say, since the beginnings when Dory and Sally Oz were some of the active members here to keep it going. And I, over the years, have ran 501c3s myself, like Janet, was executive director of one, is on many boards and organizations and things like that. I've taught economics over at university and different things like that at C&M, political science and things. And I just want to say, I think the thing that has brought us all here together is that the community just found out about this idea of mortgaging our building to raise money, which indicated to a lot of people that there was a serious problem that people didn't know about and are very concerned about. And I think that if I could speak for the sort of the majority of people that I know that have gotten involved in this, we think that that's a bad idea. I don't think there's anybody here who really favors that. We can take a vote of the community, but I think it would come back as not a good way to go to raise money. It indicates, though, that there is a problem, and there is a solution to it, which we think is mobilizing the membership and the people who support the community and rely upon those folks as a way to raise money to pay bills and expenses. And that hasn't been done, and that's a function of the board. And we put that, I think most people want to say that goes back to the board to implement a plan and get that started. In my looking at all this, I think that there's the finances question which has brought us here. I think the other thing is the board needs to look at finding an executive director for the organization that can give it political leadership in context of its mission, which seems to have lost its direction and going astray. How to get the membership going is another question, a big question. I think there needs to be a forensic audit that a lot of people are talking about. All this, we're all hearing hearsay, there's pieces, things are missing. There needs to be a professional audit done, an auditor hired to go over these books of this organization and put it together. So I'll leave it at that. And I'd just like to raise your hands. How many people here think that the idea of financing a building with a mortgage is a bad idea? Could you sort of raise your hand? Okay, thank you.
Judy, I have a microphone. And then Bob, can you go get Julie? She's ready to come home from work, so, okay, sorry. Family detail there. All right, I can see the logic of...
To your mouth.
I can, when you're talking, Tanya, it makes so much sense. But I think there's another detail in there, and that is that it won't pay the whole mortgage back. It's only going to pay up to $50,000 of the first year mortgage, which leaves the Peace Center, I mean, if it's a 5-year mortgage with $50,000 a year, it leaves the Peace Center paying $50,000 a year for 4 years in a row after that. And so I don't see how that can feasibly be done. And that's, I think, why we keep asking questions to find out.
Lloyd?
Mimi, sorry.
So that's Mimi Lopez.
Yeah. I was at the September 8th meeting, which was a board meeting. And after that meeting, I had an informal conversation with Mr. Johnson, and he stated clearly to me that the current board has never, ever discussed the possibility of the mortgage. That they have, he said there may have been some comments here and there about maybe that would be a good thing to do, but that the board as a unit, as a group, had never had any substantive discussion regarding whether or not they should pursue a mortgage. That was his really clear statement. So I don't think you missed anything like of that nature when you had to miss your COVID meeting, because the president said, no, that's never happened yet. I also think that it's unclear, and I think we need clarity about who is responsible for what at the current situation at the Peace Center. It's my understanding that there's no executive director. Normally, somebody with the title that Susie has would be accountable to the executive director. That's the normal way things would work. Since there is no executive director, my question is, to whom is Susie accountable? Who on the board has the expertise to overlook the whole financial picture for the Peace Center? If nobody has that expertise, how is the board going to resolve that? And I'd also like to know, what are the fiscal policies currently in place? Who can sign checks? Does there have to be a counter signature? Period.
And maybe the board can answer that question, the chain of command, so to speak, and we have a couple people more on the staff present and on Zoom.
Can I answer just a question first?
Jean, I wanted to answer your question real quick. So,
Closer.
sorry, maybe by the end of the meeting I'll get it. So, yes, we've had those same concerns about, the following years. But let me just tell you what I have personally been doing over the last 6 months. I have brought in we have brought in $6,500 in fiscal sponsorship. I've written and brought in, with the help of Tanya, over $60,000 in grants. We've brought in $40,000 in direct donations, of which some of those were personal asks. And then we do have $1,200 in membership dues. So that's just me. So if trust me, nobody wants an executive director more than I do. So, trust me. So we have, and I have a little spiel of things that we talked about. You wanted, me to kind of go down the line about what we had going on. So I did do that. And so we do have a plan, and if I am writing grants and bringing in this much, if we have help from the community, if we have an executive director that's doing all of those same things, then it is feasible, because that money pays for salaries, that money takes money that you all donate, and donations that come in, and keep it in the operations general fund.
And just for clarification, those grants, are those restricted grants, are they operational grants?
Good question. Let's see, $40,000 of that $60,500 was restricted for internship, restorative justice. One was a resist grant, and that was it. Everything else is unrestricted.
And then perhaps, Mr. President, you could address chain of command.
No, not the chain of command, but I did have a candid conversation with this young lady the last meeting, and I did let her know that since I have been part of this board, this thing about a mortgage has not come to this board. We have not had this in discussion. Now, I can't tell you what the other members of the board did prior to me coming, but it has not crossed our board yet for discussion. Now, and I'm not saying it won't, but it has not, and I hope I was trying to be very candid with you and truthful with you, because nothing has crossed our desk yet to start discussion on this. Yes, oh no, everybody can talk about a mortgage, that's kitchen talk, but things has not come to the board for approval.
I'm sorry, hi, I'm Cecilia, and I am passing the microphone, but Nidhi also had another couple of questions.
But other people have other questions too that haven't been able to talk.
Please, I've had my hand up.
Yes, but they had their hands up before you.
We also have.
My name is Lynn Buck. I was on the coordinating committee years ago.
Can you instruct people how to hold the microphone so we can hear?
Hold it right by your lips.
My name is Lynn Buck. I was on the coordinating committee years ago with Robin, and I got into the Peace Center through Dory Bunting. I just want to thank this board. It sounds like you inherited kind of a mess, and you're doing the best you can, and I appreciate that. And we're all real scared about this big mortgage potential, and we hope that doesn't happen. My question is basically, who are these employees and how many are there? And were they employed during the COVID pandemic? And my suggestion years ago when I was on the coordinating committee was that the first person we should hire is a full-time fundraiser to fundraise their salary and then go on. Right, and maybe this is the time for that. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Do we have any response to that particular question?
I've brought in over my salary, so I've covered my salary.
And when I was on the board, I also brought up the idea that we hire a fundraiser.
Okay. Zoom?
Okay, the first question is from Michelle Meters. The desk volunteers are the labor I was referring to. We don't know anything about how they are trained or supervised or tasked. Nancy is mentioned under volunteer management on Paul's email. Who is she? And then I have one more after that.
So early on, Jennifer, Ms. Flake was here and when Jim was here, and she was the volunteer coordinator. She left at the time that Jim left, and that's when Matthew came on board to help. He was working with volunteers, I was working with volunteers, and I continued to work with volunteers. They're shown how to answer the phone, they're told what our policies and procedures are, they have a handbook up there. I'm not sure what else Michelle's wanting to know.
Okay, a statement from Suzanne Ziegler. Would someone please bring up John Alick? I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, and let him give information about the CDs. Also, is there a way to reconstitute the 400-person membership list and send out a fundraising letter to them?
Can I please answer some of this? Thank you.
At the bottom, I think.
Forward down.
Okay, thank you. To Bob Anderson's question that he had raised, we have done this. We have sent out numerous replies, things to people asking for them to send in money. That has not worked, okay? Yes, we always get a little bit of money. We never get enough to even keep things going for one solid month. So you're asking us to keep doing something that we've already done and that hasn't worked. Like you, one of my first things was that we hire somebody who is a professional fundraiser. They would, as you said, pay for their own salary. We need to be able to do that. Things are not the same now as they were years ago, and they never will be again. So we all need to be real and look at what will work now. And yes, we need an executive director here so very badly. And if we don't have enough money to even pay our part-time people, how are we going to have enough money to pay an executive director? Let's be real.
And I think a clarification from Bob is sending out, going through past membership lists, because there's, I never received one.
I never received it.
In January, they did send out my number, because I was on the board,
So I wanted to know if someone could tell us, and I've heard that it takes $1,700 a month to keep the Peace Center going. Could someone break that down for us and tell us what that money's going for?
You have the microphone right there.
Yeah, you're gonna have to move on while I get those numbers. Here's another question from Zoom.
Okay, well, get back to that answer. Everybody keep that one in mind, what the expenses are monthly.
Hi, I just had a question. Oh, hi, sorry, my name's Kobe, I'm just a community member. I had a question just about clarity about the mortgage. We keep talking about the mortgage, it's happening, it's not. What's the status of it? Has the mortgage been applied for?
Yes.
Has it been granted, and has it just not been accepted? So what exactly is the status of the mortgage, depending on if it's going through or not? Has it been applied for? Like, what is that status?
It's not applied for.
No, Tom did not sign a mortgage.
So, Tom, just so everybody knows, Tom Dent is our treasurer, he's not here. Which is concerning. It's just concerning, yes.
Yeah, I know.
But he did not sign for a mortgage.
He applied for it, he told me.
He's not signed for it.
Not the final.
So, I'm sorry, people who cannot hear without the microphone are missing part of the conversation.
Halima, go ahead.
Can you repeat that question and you repeat the answer, please?
Well, my statement was regarding the one before Cody's. I was just answering, somebody had wondered about sending out things to the membership, And I was still on the board in December and had to leave in January, and I do remember Jim sending out several letters. They were not our usual form where we used to get kind of brief, artsy things. They were long letters. So I don't know if anybody read them, but I have to say in his defense that he did send out asking the membership to support after COVID. But I don't think he realized that the membership was at risk, just like the place. Nobody had any money. And I agree with Tonya, we're trying to adjust to all the differences, but it was very, very difficult.
And while I'm moving, why don't we have another question from Zoom?
Okay, the next question on Zoom is from Renee.
And I have a signboard I can provide to you.
I have a copy, yeah.
I sure will. Okay, again, I'm Rosemary Blanchard, and I'm not representing anybody, but I am a member of the Peace and Social Concerns Committee of Albuquerque Friends Meeting, which every year has made a ride-sharing donation.
The mic cut out.
Okay, it's working again. Has made a ride-sharing donation to the Peace and Justice Center. And I know when I get back, they're going to ask me what I learned at this meeting about the financial stability and reliability of the finances of the Peace and Justice Center. And I don't say that in any criticizing or threatening way, but they're going to ask me, and I frankly don't know what I'm going to say. Just keep bunking it, okay. And I know that that's also, since I would love to, beyond what we're able to donate, be putting out the call to people to donate more, they're going to have the same question. If the Peace Center has financial difficulties, are those difficulties going to plague the reliability of how my donation is used? And again, I can't answer that. And I bring this up there's a lot that we need to clarify about what happened in the past. But I really think if the Peace and Justice Center is going to stay financially afloat, the most important thing going forward is to be able to give people some real ironclad assurances about how finances are being handled and how going forward the Peace Center will address its use of the donated finances it gets. And again, this is not a criticism, but it's just, if we can't answer those questions, the money is not going to come in the way we need it to come in.
So I can say that if you have a donation that you want spent in a specific way, make sure and put on your check that you want it in a specific way. I'm just saying if that's the choice that you make. Also, one of the first things, and Halima and Tanya can tell you this, one of the very first things that I did, even before I came on full-time, was we wrote finance policies. We wrote the finance policies that the board approved. And so those were actually done December, January. And I actually worked with a CPA, Gene, that you know, because I had worked with him in the past. And so those are basically based off of the ones that Bruce and I did together, so.
And Susie, are those policies in the books over here?
I don't know if it is, but I can certainly put it in one of the book. Oh, sorry.
I can make sure that it's in the binder with the minutes.
Susie, when was that approved? I don't recall that. What year?
It may have been right after you left.
No, because we were paying you. It was a long time. I don't even remember why. I don't remember when I was on the board, it was only 6 months. I don't remember being asked, should we hire Susie to be paid? I remember you being a volunteer And I do not remember being asked when I was on the board, but that may be, it may have happened when I was not here or something, that we would pay you. Yeah,
Yes.
but that was last year, that wasn't this year. You've been on the board for quite a number, being paid.
For a long time.
So I wanted to respond to the young lady in the corner there who asked the question about the application. The treasurer, Tom Dent, is not here today, which is really too bad. But he specifically, I asked him that question, he specifically told me that he had filled out the online mortgage application, and I asked whose name was on that application, and it is the treasurer, Tom Dent. Now, there have been no closing papers. And what's interesting to me, because I'm also a member of Newsenda and have some familiarity with applying for loans and mortgages and so on, why Newsenda would approve a $250,000 mortgage loan for the Peace Center is not clear to me, because I promise you, every financial institution checks every applicant's financial viability. And if that person cannot repay the loan, they don't get the loan. So I don't really know what's going on at Nuzenda's end, but I sure would like to.
Do we have any response from the board?
Let me just clarify something right quick. To address your question and the question that was just brought up just now about this application for a mortgage, that has not happened. I don't know where this information is coming from, but it has not happened. Okay, it has not happened. I'm just telling you right now, it has not happened. Even though they agreed to this back in January or February, it's supposed to be done way back then, but as of today, the 25th, there has not been an application for this mortgage on this building.
Is it possible Tom filled it out, but that's as far as it's gone?
Yes, that could be, I don't know. But I know I met with Tom the other day, and none of this has been accurate information.
So I can tell you that part of that process is, I walked through that process with Tom, is you have to check off a box that say that you don't owe taxes, and we stopped at that point. And so so it hasn't moved forward. We've still talked to them about what happens if and when we do that, what that looks like, whether we do a mortgage, whether we do a loan, whatever that looks like. So no, he has not filled out an application and signed it.
All right.
I know, I can appreciate that. I do have John Elick on the phone, and I'm gonna unmute you, John, and you have the mic. How close I have to get? Right there? What? Oh, right there, John? Okay.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to provide just historical background regarding the CDs. I was treasurer from the mid-2010s till about 2018, and also chair of the Finance Committee. In 2018, the Finance Committee...
You faded. You faded.
was running in the arrears, and we brought it to the attention of the board. They did not respond. In
He needs to
February,
repeat that.
Yes.
I'm sorry, John, sorry. This is Cecilia. I am interrupting you because we are having technical difficulties. So, do you think you can start again? Sorry about that. Let's see, the two microphones.
I'm providing historical background on the CDs. The CDs, as I recall from my last association and as treasurer work, was in February of 2019. The CDs were laid out to come due in various times so that they were conservative, but we could still change them. I presented to the board in February of 2019 a program for reinvesting the CDs as they were going to come due within the next month or so. And if they weren't addressed, they would just simply roll over into the previous pattern. At that February 2019 board meeting, the board decided that they could invest that money, in their words, at a higher interest rate. And they weren't going to accept the proposal. That was the last I heard about the CD money. What I recalled is a very large CD, which was probably the 35,000, which had been the reserves with some growth of CD income. The other was a smaller reason, a CD of around 7,500. The board had begun to accumulate 2 years before. The board pledged $750 per quarter to be set aside so that when the roof needed repair, which was forthcoming, they would have a good start on it. That's what I recall was labeled maintenance reserve and then the smaller CD. What happened after February of 2019, I can't tell you where the money went. I disassociated myself, mainly because I didn't feel the board was taking finances seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's what I know.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. I think that we can hang up with you now. Do we have a question for John? No? But we want to thank John. Yes.
Thank you.
John.
Thank you.
Oh, shoot. I read that right. That's okay.
All right, this is Jean Pauls again. I have a concern because numbers don't seem to be matching. What we're hearing today is that it costs $1,700 to run the Peace Center, which sounds like a great number.
And it may be,
I don't know if you're taking it on the side of.
And the number that we heard in the meeting with you, Susie, about a month ago was something like $6,000 to $8,000.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And then the other thing I want to bring up is that we had asked for a copy of the budget, and you had said that you would give us one, but we haven't received it. And so numbers seem to be kind of a little flexible, and I really think things need to be put down in writing. I remember Sally Alice asking for that, and that being reassured to her that that would happen. Anyway, I do want to renew the call for a forensic audit. I think nothing but good would come from something like that, that we would all get some clarity, and I just think it would be a good idea. You know, I'd like to, I would volunteer to help with fundraising for that. But I think a lot of people would be interested in donating toward the cost of something like that. I mean, is there anybody in here who'd be interested in donating toward the cost of a fiscal audit? But I do think that we'd have to work out the logistics of how that would happen. Yes, I do think that there's some interest in helping to fundraise for something like that. I mean, people do want to put their feet where their mouth is,
And so can we go back, because the question was, what are the monthly expenses, for clarification of that?
Yeah, Jean, it is actually the conversation that you and I had. And I'm assuming that Tanya is thinking stuff that's not paid out of grants. That's the only thing that I can think that you're thinking of. And an executive director's salary, yeah.
And I know I don't have a mic.
But Jean, hold on.
I would
Because nobody can hear you.
I guess I would like to put a challenge to the board to help, to spearhead some fundraising too. I mean, I think usually boards do that.
And so did we have a clarification of what the monthly expenses are?
No, not as we stand right now.
Still not, okay.
But I think we're getting to that end. Jean, if you would humor me for like 3 minutes. So.
Okay.
That is the 2002 proposed budget that was approved by the board.
2002.
I have to say it again. Up on the board is the approved 2002 budget.
We can't really read it.
I'm sorry, my brain is, it just shows where my brain is, 2022. That was approved by the board.
Do you have paper copies?
Are there paper copies that people could actually look at?
Well, let me go through this real quick because one, it was a wonderful dream back when Jim and I came with it.
Could someone dim the light so we can see the paper?
Someone in the back.
It's better now.
It's to do everything.
Yes, it is on the screen. It was a wonderful goal when we created it back, when Tanya was with us and Halima was with us and Jim was with us. And we thought that we were all going to have lots of time to sit and do fundraising and write grants, and we were going to have full-time staff and admin. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. Jim left, Tanya had to step down from the board, and Halima had family things and she stepped down from the board. So this budget basically, this budget was as good as the paper it's written on, because those things that we thought we were going to be able to do did not come to fruition. And I do not make $187,000 or $184,000 a year, whatever it is.
So, do we, again, going back to the monthly expenses, do we have an answer yet?
It's approximately $6,000 a month.
Okay, we've heard 6,000, we've heard 1,700.
Well,
and so
Tanya and I followed up. I mean 6,000. Sorry, Tanya. I think you didn't hear Tanya and I talking. I'm assuming Tanya's amount did not include things that were paid out of grants and honorariums and
we're talking about just operating budget.
Right.
So we have a question over here who's been waiting patiently.
My name is Carol Merrill. I'm also a member of Quaker Friends and friend of a number of people here. And I would like you to take a breath together. Just breathe. Take a breath. This Peace and Justice Center is not a building. This Peace and Justice Center is not money. My son died because his father walked through Hiroshima 3 days after the blast. He died of a horrible genetic disease. 3 days after his death, friends and family started a scholarship for peacemakers. I thought it would take 10 years to get to 20,000. At last report, it was 62,000. in the base amount. Hundreds of people have given what they can to support someone working for peace. One of the qualifications is that the person be willing to give a report to the people in the Peace and Justice Center. I do hope we keep going. There are people here with gray hair who are risking their lives and maybe the lives of people around them. They are putting their lives on the line for this Peace and Justice Center. Sharon Niederman on the board for the Humanities Council said that they are supporting grants now for people who are having forums for very important social causes. I would be happy to work on a grant related to the Humanities Council. I know the will for peace now more than ever is strong. That's all I have to say. There's not a question.
Thank you.